What would you do if your girlfriend sat you down like she was running a board meeting and told you that you weren't enough? That you were too comfortable, too soft, basically a human couch? Most guys would spiral, beg, try to fix things. Not this guy. He walked out with his dignity intact, took the plant she never watered, and figured that was it. Except it wasn't. Her own mother called him up a few days later, not to apologize, not to check in, to set him up with the younger sister. And the younger sister? She actually appreciated everything the ex threw away. This one is a slow burn, and the payoff is unreal. Let's get into it. Ex dumped me, but her mom set me up with her younger sister, and now she is fuming. So, my girlfriend Nadine broke up with me on a Tuesday night at her kitchen table. No build-up, no big fight the week before, no dramatic event that set it off. Just a regular Tuesday where I thought we were going to eat leftovers and maybe watch something together. And instead, she was sitting across from me with her laptop open, a glass of water centered perfectly on a coaster, and this expression on her face like she was about to deliver bad news to a shareholder. A little context. Nadine and I had been together for 3 years. She worked in corporate finance at a big firm downtown. The type of woman who color-coded her calendar and talked about quarterly goals during brunch. I'm an operations analyst at a consulting firm. Good job, stable income, nothing flashy. We met at a friend's gathering, hit it off, moved in together after about a year. I thought we were solid. We had routines, inside jokes, a plant on the windowsill that I watered every morning. Normal relationship stuff. The kind of thing that feels boring from the outside until you don't have it anymore. I should have known from the way the room felt when I walked in that night. No music playing. No TV on in the background. Just silence and overhead lighting, which is never a good sign in any relationship. She adjusted her glasses, folded her hands on the table, and took one of those slow breaths that people take before they say something they've rehearsed in the mirror. Then she spoke in what I can only describe as her business voice. The one she used on conference calls when she was about to tell someone their project got cut from the budget. She said she'd been evaluating our situation and that we were no longer aligned in goals. Our situation, not our relationship. Not us. Our situation. Like I was a quarterly report that came back with a negative outlook. I asked her if she was breaking up with me or giving me a performance review. She told me not to be dramatic, called us adults, which is a pretty wild thing to say to someone who's currently watching his entire life get reorganized over a glass of water on a weeknight with no warning. Then she laid it all out. She was focused on career, ambition, and growth. She had timelines. A 5-year plan that apparently didn't include me anymore. When she got to the part about what I brought to the table, she did this vague little wave at my whole body, my whole existence, and landed on the word comfort. She said it like she was reading a diagnosis, like I had a condition. She said I was comfy, cozy, like a couch. 3 years together, and my exit review compared me to living room furniture. I sat there and let her finish because what else was I supposed to do? She said I was a good guy, but not enough. That she needed someone who pushed her harder, someone who matched her drive and made her feel challenged. She said it calmly, like she was explaining a business decision that just made sense on paper. I wanted to bring up a few things, like how I spent an entire Saturday assembling her wardrobe by hand while she watched reality TV and worked through a family-sized bag of chips without offering to help once. Like how the guy from her office had been calling her past midnight for weeks, and every single time I brought it up, she flinched for half a second and then said it wasn't relevant. That micro-flinch told me everything I needed to know, but I never pushed it because I trusted her. My mistake. But I didn't say any of that. Because when someone's already decided you're not enough, arguing just makes you look desperate. And whatever else I am, I'm not that. I sat there looking at the shared plants on the windowsill, the mugs we picked out together at a flea market 2 years ago, the blanket on the couch that she always stole and I never complained about. 3 years. 3 years of showing up, being steady, doing the boring stuff that actually holds a relationship together. And this was the summary. Not aligned. Too soft. Not enough. She closed her laptop like she was wrapping up a meeting. Stood up. Told me I'd be fine because I was nice. Said someone softer would appreciate me one day. Like that was supposed to help. Like nice was a consolation prize she was handing me on the way out. I grabbed my jacket, took the little plant we'd been growing on the windowsill, because I was the only one who ever watered it. She never touched it once in 3 years. Didn't slam the door. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crack. Just left. Walked home in a fog. The streets felt different. Longer somehow. I kept thinking about 3 years of small moments. All the times I made her laugh and she looked at me like I was the best thing in the room. All the mornings I woke up before her and made the coffee just the way she liked it. All the nights I rubbed her shoulders after bad days at work and never once asked for credit. None of that mattered now. It was all filed under comfort, which apparently was the lowest tier on her value chart. Put the plant on my kitchen table and sat across from it like it owed me an explanation. Checked my phone. No apology text. No, are you okay? Just a notification from my banking app letting me know I'd paid for her streaming subscription 2 days ago. Incredible. The universe really just twists the knife sometimes. 3 days went by and I was a wreck. Barely ate. Slept in short bursts that never lasted more than a couple hours. Kept replaying her greatest hits in my head on an endless loop. Not aligned, too comfortable, not enough. Every time I started feeling like maybe I could pull myself together, my brain would cue up another clip, and I'd be right back at that kitchen table getting professionally evaluated out of my own relationship. I went to work, did my job, came home, stared at the plant. That was the whole routine. I work as an operations analyst at a consulting firm, so I'm used to order and systems. I like when things make sense, but there's no spreadsheet for processing the fact that the woman you spent 3 years with thinks you're equivalent to a piece of furniture. There's no workflow for that. You just sit there and absorb it. The hardest part wasn't the breakup itself. It was the quiet afterwards, coming home to an apartment that suddenly felt twice as big, opening the fridge and seeing food for one, reaching for my phone to text her something funny I saw, and then remembering I wasn't supposed to do that anymore. Those little moments piled up faster than the big ones. Then on day 3, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out because it was probably spam or a recruiter for something I didn't apply for. But I picked up anyway because honestly, what else did I have going on? It was Nadine's mom. I need to give you some background on this woman. Over 3 years of dating Nadine, her mom had basically adopted me into the family. Every single time I walked through that front door, she had food in my hands within 60 seconds. She scolded me for apologizing too much. She told me to eat more at least twice per visit. She once called me her almost son in front of the whole family at a dinner, and I choked on my food so hard someone had to pat my back. She didn't ask how I was doing. She asked if I'd eaten. I said I'd had coffee. She said coffee wasn't food. I could hear the disappointment through the phone. Then she told me to come to dinner. 6 o'clock, tonight. No discussion. I tried to explain that it was probably a bad idea to show up at the family house of the woman who just dumped me, that it would be awkward, that maybe we should all just move on. She didn't even let me finish. She said I'd sat at her table for 3 years and she wasn't the one who divorced me. Told me not to argue. Hung up. I looked at the plant, told it I'd just been summoned by the scariest woman I've ever known. The plant offered no guidance. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Just let the whole family fade out of my life the way Nadine clearly wanted. But this woman had fed me, scolded me, and told me I was too skinny every single week for 3 years. You don't just ghost someone like that, especially when she has your number and 0 problems using it. I showed up at 5 minutes to 6 because that woman genuinely scared me more than any boss I'd ever had. She opened the front door in what felt like half a second, grabbed my wrist, and pulled me inside like I was late for an emergency. First words out of her mouth were that I looked skinny. I told her I'd lost about 3 days of emotional stability, and maybe some water weight. She ignored that entirely, and shoved a plate into my hands before I could even get my shoes off. The house smelled exactly the way it always did. Something baking in the oven. Spices I couldn't name but recognized on instinct after 3 years of being fed at that table. Memories hit from every angle. The couch where Nadine and I used to sit. The mug I always drank from. The hallway where her family photos hung. But Nadine herself wasn't home. Small mercy. Pause for a second here. This is me jumping in, not the OP. I need you to appreciate what this mom is doing. Her daughter dumps a solid dude who showed up for 3 years straight, and her response isn't to stay out of it. It's to call him, demand he come over, feed him, and refuse to let the breakup erase him from the family. She isn't meddling. She's running a full operation. She looked at what Nadine threw away and said, "Nope, somebody in this house is going to keep this one." I respect the vision completely. Now watch what she does next. Dinner and a guest. Her mom sat across from me while I ate and watched me like she was conducting some kind of soul-level evaluation. Every bite was being noted. I tried to acknowledge the awkwardness. She waved it away like I'd said something irrelevant. Said Nadine told her everything. Said her daughter dumped me like a bad stock. Then she called her own daughter stupid. Not in a hateful way. More like a professor who's watched a talented student waste potential for the 100th time and is finally done being polite about it. I tried defending Nadine. It was instinct. 3 years with someone, and you still protect them even when they've hurt you. I said maybe she was right, and I really was holding her back. Her mom made a sound like I'd personally insulted her cooking and her ancestry in one sentence. She said if anything, I was the only thing keeping Nadine grounded. That without me steadying things behind the scenes, Nadine would have burned out or blown up her own career a long time ago. She said Nadine was smart, but too clever to be wise. That some people only learn the value of stability when they're standing in the wreckage of their own chaos. That line landed somewhere deep and didn't come back out. Then she went quiet, looked right at me with this expression that was warm but calculated, like she'd been building to something all night. And she said she still believed I belonged in this family, just not with Nadine. Before my brain could even begin to process that sentence, the front door opened. Shoes hitting the floor in the hallway. A voice calling out that was bright and warm and completely different from Nadine's boardroom energy. And then Lena walked in. Nadine's younger sister. I hadn't seen her in about 3 years. Last time was at a family cookout right after Nadine and I started dating. She'd been in college then, quiet, mostly in the background. Now she was standing in the kitchen doorway looking confused and amused in equal measure, trying to figure out why her sister's ex was eating her mom's cooking at their kitchen table. Her mom smiled like someone who had just played a move 3 turns ahead in chess. Said I wasn't a guest. Said I was almost family. I nearly choked for the second time in this woman's house. Lena shook my hand. Firm grip, easy smile. She said she remembered me. Said I used to fix their Wi-Fi and carry all the grocery bags in one trip like it was a personal challenge. I told her, yeah, that tracked. I am unreasonably committed to the one-trip grocery carry. It's a principle at this point. She sat down at the table like it was the most natural thing in the world. Didn't make it weird. Didn't act like I was some leftover from her sister's life that needed to be dealt with. Just sat, grabbed a plate, and started talking to me like I belonged there. Dinner happened. Extra plates appeared out of nowhere, because in this house, food materializes the second anyone sits down. Lena ended up next to me, and we talked about nothing important. She was in her last year of graduate school, studying organizational psychology at a university a few hours away, but home for the break. She talked about it the same way she talked about everything, with this warmth that made even boring topics feel interesting. Her mom watched us the entire time like she'd just pressed play on her favorite movie and was waiting for the good part. At one point, Lena leaned over and whispered that it felt like a date she didn't agree to. I whispered back that her mom was probably arranging marriages. She nodded, like that was a completely reasonable conclusion, given the evidence. Then her mom stood up, announced she forgot something in the garden, and walked outside. Lena said they didn't have a garden. Her mom ignored that entirely and went to sit in a plastic chair next to one sad bush in the yard. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling like she was on vacation. Door closed behind her. We sat there in the sudden quiet. Lena muttered that her mom was clearly leaving us alone on purpose. Said she did this anytime she wanted 2 people to talk without her interference, except she was sitting 12 feet away behind a glass door, which was barely interference-free. I said the whole dinner was probably a pity invite. She squinted at me and said that was wrong. Dead wrong. She said her mom had called me the night she found out about the breakup. Not a week later. Not when it was convenient. That night. And the first thing she said to Lena was that Nadine had lost the best person in the family. She said I was the favorite almost son. That I ranked higher than every single guy either daughter had ever brought home, And that included 3 of Nadine's exes and 2 of Lena's. I genuinely did not know how to respond to that. My mouth opened and nothing useful came out. Lena laughed, said I didn't have to say anything, said she just wanted me to know that one person's opinion of me didn't represent the full picture, that Nadine saw the world through a very specific lens, and it wasn't the only one that mattered. Hold on, let me jump in here. I love how Lena handles this whole thing. She's not flirting. She's not playing some angle. She's just being warm and honest and letting this dude know he was way more valued than Nadine ever told him. That line about ranking higher than every boyfriend in the family history? That's the mom's entire endorsement delivered through the back channel. And Lena drops it casually, like it's just a fact. This is where things start shifting for the OP, and he doesn't even fully realize it yet. Pay attention. The crack in the wall. She asked me how I was really doing. I gave her the default fine. She raised an eyebrow and said it was okay to not be fine. Something about the way she said it, direct and calm, no judgment at all, cracked through whatever I had built up. I told her I felt stupid. She asked why. I told her because Nadine said I wasn't enough. Lena made this noise somewhere between a laugh and a growl. She said that was Nadine's trademark breakup line, that she used it on everyone. She said Nadine told her college boyfriend he was a bottleneck to her personal evolution. Those words exactly. I said it felt like getting dumped through a LinkedIn status update. She said, yeah, that was basically Nadine's entire brand. Then she got a little more serious. Leaned forward and said, Nadine didn't understand comfort. That warmth, softness, and genuine affection made Nadine feel like she was losing her edge. That Nadine saw love as friction and calmness as weakness. She said her sister had always been like that. Even as kids, Nadine treated every relationship like a competition. Friendships, school, dating. Everything had to be moving, escalating, challenging. The second something felt stable, Nadine got restless and convinced herself she was settling. Then Lena paused and said she was the opposite. That she valued comfort. That she thought it was a strength, not something to be embarrassed about. She said the older she got, the more she realized that the people who make you feel at ease are the rare ones, not the ones who keep you on edge. I laughed for real. First genuine laugh in 3 days. Her whole face lit up. She said she knew I could still do it. Something shifted in that moment. Tiny, quiet, but real. Like a door opening somewhere that I didn't even know existed. The back door opened and her mom came back in, asking if we were still sitting together like she hadn't planned the entire thing down to the minute. She immediately started asking me if I was seeing anyone. Lena made a sound of pure horror. Her mom said it was just a question. Lena said it was an interrogation. Her mom shrugged and said she was just exploring the possibilities. Lena looked at me with an expression that said, I'm sorry. She's always like this, and I just smiled because, honestly, it was the most wanted I'd felt in weeks. Over the next couple weeks, I kept ending up back at that house. It was never forced. Her mom would text me to come pick up leftovers. Lena would send me a random article she thought was funny with a, you'd appreciate this attached. The dish thing happened too. Her mom gave me a ceramic plate and said, return it sometime. If you think that was anything other than a calculated move to get me back through that front door, you don't understand this woman at all. So I went back, plate in hand, heart doing things I wasn't ready to acknowledge. Lena opened the door and smiled like I just made her entire day better by showing up. Her mom appeared from around a corner, shoved a laundry basket into my arms, and told me and Lena to go hang clothes in the backyard. When Lena asked why they both needed to do it, her mom said bonding and locked the door behind us. Physically locked it. The backyard was the same as before. 1 bush, 1 chair, 1 clothesline. Still no basil, despite her mom claiming she'd been out checking on it during the first dinner. Lena and I started hanging laundry and just talked. It was easy. That was the thing I kept noticing. Conversation with Lena didn't require effort. It just flowed. No performing, no trying to sound interesting. Just 2 people standing in a yard hanging sheets and saying whatever came to mind. She asked what I'd been doing since the breakup. I said mostly overthinking every decision I'd made in the last 3 years and wondering where it went wrong. She said that sounded exhausting and was probably doing me zero good. Said I needed breaks, ice cream breaks, movie breaks, talking to actual humans breaks. She said isolation was the worst possible response to rejection, and that the best thing I could do was keep showing up around people who reminded me that I wasn't the problem. I asked her if she knew anyone who could help with that. She looked right at me, held it for a beat longer than necessary, smirked and said maybe. Wind caught a bed sheet and whipped it across my face like some kind of slapstick punishment from the universe. I stumbled backward and ran straight into her. She caught me, one hand flat on my chest, one on my shoulder. We were standing way too close for two people doing household chores. Neither of us moved. She asked if I was okay. I said, yep, in a voice that had somehow jumped 3 octaves above normal. She laughed, soft and close, and said I was adorable. My brain submitted a formal request to shut down. We stood there for probably 3 seconds too long before she stepped back and pretended to be interested in a pillowcase. I pretended to be interested in a clothespin. Neither of us was fooling anyone. Nadine showed up at the house once during this stretch. Walked into the kitchen while I was standing at the stove in an apron next to Lena, their mom humming in the background like the soundtrack to her own personal movie. Nadine stopped in the doorway and just stared. Asked why I was wearing an apron. Her mom said so I wouldn't get dirty, and that I was precious. Nadine opened her mouth to say something, and her mom cut her off cold. Said Nadine lost her rights. The kitchen went dead silent for about 2 seconds, and then Lena very casually went back to stirring. Then Lena reached past me for a spice jar and we bumped hips. Nothing dramatic, just contact. But Nadine's head snapped toward us like she'd heard a gunshot. She watched Lena wipe a smudge off my cheek with her thumb. Watched the way we moved around each other at the counter, like it was choreographed. She said we looked very comfortable together, and she said comfortable like it was an accusation. Lena didn't hesitate for even a second. She said comfort wasn't a bad thing, that some people actually liked it. Clean hit, center mass. Nadine left the kitchen without another word. I stood there stirring soup and trying to act like my heart wasn't going about 150 beats per minute. A few days later, their mom signed us up for a cooking class. I still don't know how she enrolled 2 adults without their knowledge or consent. She just texted both of us the time and location and said have fun like it was already decided, which, knowing her, it was. I showed up and Lena was already there, standing outside the building looking equal parts amused and embarrassed. She told me her mom had also bought her a new apron for the occasion. We walked in together and the instructor took one look at us, smiled, and said we looked like a cute couple. We both froze, stammered through some version of we're not actually together. The instructor winked, paired us at the same station anyway, and moved on. The class was supposed to be about dumplings. What it actually became was an hour of Lena being close to me in ways that made it really difficult to focus on cooking. She corrected my knife grip from behind, hand over mine, shoulder pressed against my arm. She leaned across me to grab ingredients and I could feel her breath on my neck. The instructor passed by, watched us for a few seconds, and announced to the room that we had great chemistry. I fumbled a dumpling so badly it looked like modern art. Lena laughed so hard she had to put the knife down. We made the ugliest dumplings the class had ever seen. The instructor was polite about it. Lena was not. She held one up and said it looked like it had given up on life. I said it was going through something. She said it looked like us 2 weeks ago. And then we both laughed, and I realized I hadn't thought about Nadine's breakup speech in hours. That was the first time since the kitchen table that my brain actually gave me a break. And it was because of Lena. I didn't have to force it. She just made the noise stop. After class, we walked outside into the evening air. The street was quiet. She stopped under a streetlight and turned to face me with an expression I hadn't seen before. Serious. Open. She told me she didn't come just because of her mom. She wanted to. Her hand brushed against mine. She said something was happening between us, and maybe next time we should actually talk about it instead of dancing around it. I said yes about 4 times faster than any normal person would. She laughed, blushed, and said, "Okay, next time. Okay, stop. This is me again. Can we talk about the contrast here?" Nadine sat him down under fluorescent kitchen lighting and told him he was a couch. Lena is standing with him under a streetlight after a cooking class they didn't even sign up for, telling him she feels something real. Same guy, same personality. One woman saw limitation, The other one sees exactly what she's been looking for. He didn't change a thing about himself. He just ended up next to someone with better vision. Now here comes the part you've been waiting for. The rooftop. Next day, she texted me an address. It was the same rooftop spot she'd told me about weeks ago. A hidden garden above one of the buildings in her neighborhood. String lights strung between poles. Mismatched chairs that didn't belong together, but somehow worked. A small fountain trickling in the corner. Herbs growing in clay pots along the railing. It felt like someone's secret. She said it was her favorite place in the city. She came here when she needed to sort through her thoughts. She was already sitting there when I arrived. Wind moving through her hair, hands in her lap, eyes warm but focused, like she'd been rehearsing something and wasn't sure if she'd get it right. She didn't do small talk, didn't ease into it. Just looked at me and started. She said she didn't mean to like me, that she wasn't planning on it, and it caught her completely off guard. She said when she first saw me again at that dinner, she figured I was just her sister's ex passing through. Someone she'd be polite to and then forget about. But then I kept showing up, kept being kind, kept making her laugh, kept treating her mom with the kind of respect that most guys stop bothering with after the first visit. She said it just happened, that I was patient in a way that didn't feel forced, that I never made her feel small or like she had to perform to earn my attention. She stepped closer and told me that when she was around me, she felt warm, safe, like she could just exist without trying to prove anything to anyone. She said she liked that feeling more than she expected. She said she liked me. I told her I liked her too. Simple and honest, and for once in my life, I didn't overthink the words before they came out. I just said it. Her whole face changed. Relief washed over her like something heavy she'd been carrying finally got set down. She smiled wide, a little unsteady, a little overwhelmed. Said she'd wanted to tell me that for longer than she should probably admit. We stepped closer. She asked if she could kiss me. I answered by closing the gap myself. Hands on her waist, her fingers gripping the front of my shirt. The city noise fading into background static. For the first time in months, my brain went completely silent. No replay of Nadine's voice, no loop of not enough. No analyzing what I did wrong or what I should have said different. Just quiet. Just her. Just someone who chose me on purpose, knowing exactly who I was and wanting that anyway. We had maybe 10 seconds of peace after that kiss before the rooftop door swung open. I heard it before I saw it. The click of the handle, the creak of old hinges. Lena and I pulled apart just as Nadine stepped out into the evening air, carrying grocery bags and taking the rooftop shortcut she apparently used to get home. Because of course she did. Of course the one private moment we had was going to get interrupted by the one person who shouldn't have been there. She stopped walking, set the bags down slowly, looked at me, looked at Lena, looked at the total absence of space between us, and the way my hand was still on Lena's waist. She said one word. Interesting. Not angry. Not surprised. Just that one clinical word hanging in the air, like a judge reading a verdict. Lena told her to stop showing up like a ghost every time something good was happening. Nadine said she was just passing through, which was technically true, but felt like a stretch. Then she looked back and forth between us and said, "Friends don't look at each other like that." She wasn't wrong. We weren't even remotely pulling off the Just Friends act. The evidence was overwhelming. Lena didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She didn't scramble for an excuse or try to minimize what Nadine was seeing. She squared up, looked her sister dead in the face, and said yes. This is real. I braced myself. 3 years with Nadine taught me that any kind of confrontation ended in a full detonation. She ran hot. She ran loud. And she especially ran possessive, even over things she'd already thrown away. But the explosion didn't come. She looked at both of us for a long stretch. Something shifted behind her eyes, like she was recalculating a spreadsheet, and the numbers finally made sense. Then she sighed and said fine. He's good. You're you. It makes sense. Lena asked if she was mad. Nadine said she wasn't mad, just annoyed that we were clearly having more fun than her. And then she said something I didn't expect. She said I looked happier than she'd seen me in a long time. And she left it at that. Didn't apologize. Didn't take back what she said. But for Nadine, acknowledging someone else's happiness without making it about herself was basically a standing ovation. That's about as close to a blessing as she's ever given anyone. Then from the stairwell, their mom appeared, phone held up in the air, filming the whole thing like she was producing a nature documentary about love in the wild. She announced to absolutely no one in particular that she knew it, that love wins, that she'd been right all along. She grabbed both me and Lena into a hug so tight, I genuinely felt something in my ribcage shift position. She called us her favorite couple. Nadine pointed out, with visible exhaustion, that she was literally standing right there. Her mom looked at her without a shred of guilt and said, Nadine lost her boyfriend privileges when she broke up with me. That the sister gets him now. Official ruling. No appeals. Nadine just stood there with the expression of someone who lost an argument she didn't know was happening, in a court she didn't know existed, with a judge who was clearly biased. Lena bit her lip trying not to laugh. I grabbed the railing behind me because I was about 2 seconds from passing out from everything hitting at once. Final update! Later that night, Lena walked me to the front door. The house was quiet. Her mom had finally stopped hovering, though I'm pretty sure she was watching from a window somewhere. Lena took my hand and said our first official date should probably happen somewhere that wasn't her mother's kitchen or backyard. I agreed completely. She said she wanted to take me somewhere new, somewhere that was just ours. Not her mom's setup, not her sister's rooftop shortcut, just us. She kissed me one more time at the doorstep, slow and deliberate, like she was making a point that this wasn't accidental and never had been. I walked home the same route I took the night Nadine ended things. Same streets, same sidewalks, same quiet city at night. But I was different in a way I couldn't even fully explain yet. My chest didn't feel heavy. My head wasn't replaying old arguments. I wasn't spiraling or second-guessing or wondering what I should have done differently. I was just walking home from a good night with a good person, and that was enough. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not too comfortable. I'm not a couch. I'm the exact same guy I've always been. Nadine looked at me and saw a limitation. Lena looked at me and saw what she'd been waiting for. Their mom saw it before either of them did and decided to make it happen herself. 3 women. Same household. Completely different conclusions about the same person. Sometimes you don't get the revenge fantasy where the ex comes crawling back, begging for a second chance. Sometimes you get something quieter and way better. You get chosen on purpose by someone who genuinely wants what you bring to the table. You get a family that flat out refuses to let you walk away. And you get a future mother-in-law who was working behind the scenes for your happiness before you even realized it was possible. So, yeah, I got dumped for being too comfortable. And the woman who actually values comfort found me anyway? Life's funny like that. Would you date your ex's sibling if the whole family was on board with it? Or is that a line you'd never cross no matter how good the connection was? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where people land on this one. Wait, before we close it out, let me add one thing. I know some of you are thinking this is messy. Dating the sister, the mom orchestrating the whole thing, the overlapping family dynamics. On paper, sure, it's complicated. But think about what actually happened. He didn't chase Nadine, didn't beg, didn't try to win her back or make her jealous. He accepted the situation with dignity, kept being himself, and someone better noticed. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do when someone says you're not enough is to simply exist around people who already know you are. That's the whole lesson right there.